Hey everybody, I'm Dane Sanders, and I want to welcome you to Fast Track Coaching. This is episode 147, and for those of you who are new to the show, I want to give you a little bit of context before I introduce you to our guest, who you can see on screen now, and I know you're excited to hear from. This show it's been around for almost 3 years. We do a weekly show where our intention is really just to have a conversation where you guys can listen in, engage it any way you'd like, and hopefully to help move your business and your creativity just a little bit further this week. We're not trying to solve the world's problems, but we are inviting you to really get one or two things that you actually might implement. We don't want to just entertain. We want to actually get something done. So hopefully today will definitely contribute to that effort. I'm thrilled to have Scott Stratten on the show today. He's you guys all know this is why you're here, but he is the author of Unmarketing. And it's funny, I would actually love to go into this long diatribe of how great he is with all these great accolades. But
please do. Please do. I'll just wait.
But it's funny because I kind of get the impression based on what, you and I just met, but everything I've read about you and read that you've written, I kind of get the impression you'd immediately discount everything that I would say that would be fluff instantly. So
it's true. Very true.
So before I get taken out at the knees, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you to today? Because it's been quite a journey over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and actually the great thing about you mentioning people talking about stuff today and actually them having some kind of action and doing something for their business. Today, my first newsletter I ever created a decade ago was called the Stop Thinking, Start Doing business newsletter, and it was like the exact context. There was so much information out there and this overconsumption. I'm just like, just stop for a minute, stop buying books and everything. I don't mean don't buy mine, but stop buying books for one day or for 1 week and put some stuff into action. And we both know that it's not the best ideas that are profitable or great for business, it's the ones that are acted on. And so for me, there's your start of the story. 10 years ago, I started doing that. I started doing business coaching back then. I had a real knack for kicking people in the ass and getting stuff done. And apparently there's a niche for that. You get stuff done. And that's really how I started in this side of the business. So, and then 8 years ago, I created Unmarketing, and we made viral videos. And I hate the term too. But that's what we did for 7 years. We created videos for clients that attracted viewers and got sign-ups for newsletters, and it worked. We did 60 videos, and the whole time we got 60 million views of those. So,
wow.
But after about 7 years of that, you kind of get tired of motivational movies that make you throw up. So you kind of move on, and I was really looking to go back on the stage again. I was running my agency behind the scenes, and I'm not a behind the scenes kind of guy,
right?
And I realized I wanted to be the lead singer again. I want to have the microphone. I want to be in the front of the stage because that's my personality. And it just happened that this site called Rise.com, RYZE.com, or ZE, depending on where you're at.
Right.
Is that was the actual first social media site that was really out there, and it wasn't called social media though. It was just called virtual business networking. And so I joined that and got really into it and helped people who just opened a Toronto chapter run that one. And it just evolved, and then MySpace took off, and then LinkedIn came in, and then Facebook, and then Twitter, and then Kubota, and now we're here. So my timing for wanting to be in the front and for the microphone to come up on stage in the front was just all real good timing. And the book came out, one of my jobs was to create a big enough platform that I'd want to write a book. I've always wanted to write a book. I picked the name Unmarketing almost a decade ago because I thought it would look good on a book cover.
Right.
And I think it does. And
everything about your book is all. I mean, the brown cover, all of the. I mean, I literally, and I hate to. It's a bummer about virtual reality is. I want to say I laughed out loud, but I hate even saying the phrase now. But I actually laughed out loud, and when I was reading the blurbs on the back, and honestly, it kind of ruined. I was kind of bummed on you because I just published my first book, and I got the holy grails of blurbs from Seth Godin on my book. And I was like, "This is just awesome!" And of course, he's on every book. He's
on every book.
He doesn't have to write books; he's on every book. And I was so proud of this thing. And it was about that week. I was in Illinois, and my friend Lori Nordstrom, who might be watching actually, she's a photographer.
Yeah.
She she says, "Have you seen this book?" And she shoves your book in front of me. I'm like, "I haven't seen it. This is brilliant." And I started laughing in the back. I'm like, "Oh, what a nice humble pill this is." I mean, you're like a modern day Dudley Moore, like in that movie. Like you just tell them the truth.
That's why you. It's literally the fake testimonials on the back. I had to write them because I wrote a chapter about that, about how that authors give other authors testimonials to make themselves look good on backs of books, and some authors pay for it, and a lot of authors. I know.
Oh,
exactly.
That's right. We do.
And I've done half of those things. That's why I know it. So for me, it just fit the style, and I don't know how I'm going to top it for the next one, but I've seen people pick up the book off the shelf at the bookstore and flip it, and then look at it, you see their face, and they look twice, like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I got him.
Yeah,
I got him.
That's it. That's great. Okay, so let's talk about this for a second, because a couple things that you mentioned that really struck me as interesting was, one, you knew you wanted to be in the front of the microphone, in front with the microphone, and that seems pretty important to me from the perspective of someone who owns a small business. If it's theirname.com, regardless of what they're doing, there's a degree to which they're putting themselves out there, but they have to have a sense of comfortableness in their own skin. They have to have a sense of confidence to do that. Yet a lot of folks that I know, they don't anticipate, or who are doing the small business thing, they don't anticipate how important it is to own that microphone, to own that space. So talk a little bit about that realization for you, and just also how important you think that is for folks who are in small business.
That's a great question, because it's a big problem. It is a really big problem I've seen out there, especially with small business owners, where they lack the confidence because they don't think they're there yet. And if you don't have confidence in what you do, how am I going to have confidence in it as a potential client or a customer? Right. You do got to own that. Like, you've got to be able to grab it by the coattails and say, this is what I do. And like, for me, I've always had that, because I know I've got to, and it's not fake it till you make it. It's like, you've got that attitude, and there's different levels of making it. And it's like, I wrote a chapter about calling yourself an expert, and people say, well, I can't call myself an expert. I'm not the expert. There's a difference between calling yourself the expert in something and an expert in something. Right. One is, exclusive. One is inclusive. And I think anybody's kind of a jackalope if they call themselves the expert in something, because it's subjective. But if you are a expert, you've got to be. You can't be in business if you're not an expert. An expert is simply somebody who knows more than the common person about something. And if you're not, then I don't think you should have a business doing it. But there's nothing comes in the mail. I don't think you got a certificate in the mail saying, "Hey, you are now allowed to be confident. Go ahead and be cocky because you're now professional."
You didn't get one? I got 3 of them. It just cost me $25 on the internet, and they keep sending them. It's great.
I should have got it. It's Canadian Customs.
Well, but seriously though, what you're onto is really insightful, because this notion of waiting for some external something to deem you, it's like getting knighted or something. Like, okay, now you're ready. What is that dynamic that's going on for people, where they're looking? Because where I see it a lot with the photography world is, there is no barrier to entry anymore with photographers. Everyone is a photographer. It's not everyone's at the caliber, but certainly everyone, if they own a phone, they own a camera, and that wasn't the case 20 years ago. So 10 years ago. So given the transitions that have happened, there's still this kind of mindset of, gosh, if I don't go to art school, if I haven't gotten someone else to check the box and say that I'm okay, then I'm going to play this kind of, in my experience, almost false humble card. As a me. You know what I mean?
And all your tweets are like humble brags. You retweet like, "Oh, I'm so flattered, thank you." But in reality, you got some ass clown on the other end of the country walking around with Instagram thinking he's the greatest photographer of all time. Like, you've got this debate between the two. I think, especially in an art form, I think that it's harder because people who are, to me, true artists, and I used to manage bands in the music industry, and I've dealt with a lot of things in art that. True artists do potentially have that humble nature somewhere.
Sure.
To me, confidence in your own art and your own craft has got to be there, or you're going to stop doing it. At least for a business wise, you're going to stop doing it, because then you can't quote. One of the biggest things for any kind of service business to me is pricing. Right. You can't quote. You can't put things. I've seen photographers who charge a tenth of what they should charge. I've seen photographers who charge 10 times more than they should themselves, but since they quote it, and they can quote it and they feel confident about it, they get the money. Like I see photographers killing themselves doing weddings, just dying. You know, the antichrist of photography. They're doing these weddings every weekend and just dying, and they're getting paid next to nothing because they don't feel they're there yet. Look, I think to me, photographic talent as well, especially speaking on this plane of it, there's something there that there's a natural talent somewhere in there too. There's that eye, and you should get paid for that eye. When I still don't like quoting price for me. What I do, I actually hired my assistant. Karen's been with me for 6 years now.
By the way,
I solely have her in there. One of the main reasons.
Can I give a side note real quick side note for Karen? She's awesome.
Yeah.
Just so you know, you have a gem. I doubt she gets a lot of play on the interweb, but I think she's fantastic.
Yes,
so sorry to interrupt, but she's great.
Her Twitter name's Scott's Boss. If you want to see who is the name.
That's it. Yeah. That's great.
But for me, having her. She allows us to have that price buffer. She went away on her honeymoon to the UK for a month, and I'm just quoting prices, whatever people want for a month. She comes back, she's, what do you do? I'm like, I'm not good at this. You know, and I've been doing this for a very long time. But I have to be confident that I can quote an obscene amount of money to go to a keynote talk, because I know they're not paying for the hour I'm talking. They're paying for the 36 years I went into it. They're paying for the style. And that's what, especially in an art service, whether it's photography or sketching or painting, right? Anything, especially when it comes to art, though, because people so undervalue themselves in it. That you've got to have that confidence in pricing. It'll come out in your pricing. It'll come out in your product, and it'll come out in how you write and blog and tweet and everything else. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because obviously, you know, unmarketing, the whole idea of stop marketing, start engaging. And by the way, if you haven't seen his book yet, if you're new to the conversation around unmarketing, go to Amazon right now, check it out, or go to his website. His blog's fantastic. Really encourage you guys to go check that out. But let's talk a little bit about the distinction between marketing and engagement, and specifically around creating value, because I think it seems like for a lot of small business owners who are creatives, part of it is just believing not only in that their skill level is at a level that they can charge a premium for, but or at least enough to pay, you know, feed their kids, but that they would literally believe that their holistic value of the business they're creating, which is a large extension of their brand and their marketing. So when you say engagement, especially as it relates to creating increased value for your company, even if you're a company of one, what do you mean by that, and how can people reframe?
People do business with people they know, like, and trust. That's not new. That's not mine. That's centuries old. Okay, that's handshake business. You know, our deal is between we shake our hands and we got a deal. We go have lunch. We go to a networking event. People have always done business on those three pillars: know, like, and trust. And that's what engaging is. Engagement. We understand engagement in person. We go to a Chamber of Commerce event. We talk. We get to know each other. Hey, how do you like the deviled eggs? I do. Well, what do you do? I'm a photographer. Oh, cool. Still doesn't get you the business. But as we keep talking, and I realize, you know what, I like this person. That's cool. I got to go check out their site because they gave me their card. That's how the engagement happens. And then you hop online and say, hey, I checked out your portfolio. I love that autumn thing you did for that family. It was beautiful what you did with and hey, thanks very much. And you keep talking. But you stay front of mind the whole time. So engagement keeps you front of mind. So the next 6 months later, when somebody's kid's doing their senior shots, or somebody else needs a corporate shot, and saying, you know what, actually, I know this photographer. I know Jen. I've met her for 8 months now. Yeah. It's a more of a in the background conversational type of stuff, where now it's not getting to know people always, but people getting to know that you're there. And isn't that the biggest challenge? Isn't that what marketing is? To me, that's marketing, is building awareness. That's all connection. Marketing is. Right. And when you connect, especially if you're one who you're trading your time for dollars. So as a photographer,
any service-based business,
anything, that is even more important. Trust is huge. I'm going to trust my wedding with you. I'm going to trust my family portraits with you. I'm going to trust corporate. I'm going to trust my product.
Corporate client.
Oh, you've got to have that trust, because I know if you screw up, I'm in trouble, and that's not going to happen.
Right. That's helpful. Okay, so I get the difference between, and well, if that's engagement, then what is marketing? Like, is that just the salesy, the spammy?
That's why I came up with unmarketing. The term marketing itself, I think, is anything that tries to build awareness about something. And it's just old school marketing, push and pray marketing versus pull and stay. That's the difference. Like, the old school is push out and interrupt people all day. It's like Seth Godin when he came out with permission marketing. 10 years ago, which is my Bible. That was the point. Marketing is, to me, marketing is a verb. I really think that marketing, you don't choose to market. You simply are marketing.
Right.
It's just happening. You just choose what way.
Like I breathe, I eat.
You're marketing every time.
Yeah.
You and I talk right now. I'm marketing right now. You're
Sure.
marketing right now. We're just getting
Sure.
when we get to know somebody. There's an awareness built. There's a relationship either increased or decreased. That's marketing.
Right.
A phone
Right.
call. You a photographer, and you decide that you have to go have a smoke in the corner, and the guests see you doing that. That's marketing.
Right. That's right.
You're not choosing to. That's marketing, and that I think people don't realize is it's just not like a 6-week plan or a 6-month plan. It simply is happening. You're not answering people on Twitter. That's marketing.
Right.
You're not checking your Facebook page. That's marketing. You crap on somebody's head because they took your photo off your page and put it somewhere else, and you did it in public. That's marketing too.
Yeah. See, dude, you even just that distinction between marketing as a subject or noun versus marketing as a verb. If people just had that as a mantra in their mind of like, I'm always on whether I like it or not. Like I was driving the other day, not the other day, it was actually quite a few months ago, but I was driving and I was thinking about this dynamic a little bit after the fact, but I was driving to church of all places, and this guy cuts me off on the freeway, and I don't flip him off, but I give him some serious stink eye, like some serious like you're a bad human kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I pull off the freeway, and of course I roll into church of all places, and there he is, you know. And I had this clear thought of like, that was a marketing moment. A branding like
That's right.
You know what I mean? And I was inviting him to go do something with the stink eye, and I think that idea of if I always have it in my mind that I'm always on, not only would I'd probably be more honest, I'd probably be in a more authentic way humble, but I'd also be more confident in what I'm bringing to the table. That's really helpful.
And there's a thing about being virtual too, where if you thought one or two things: one, I'll never see that guy again, so I can do whatever I want without repercussion. Versus if you looked at him and realized that guy's at my church, I'm just going to give him a hey.
Yeah, that's right.
We need to treat people like that online. I wrote something a decade ago about treating everybody like they're your grandmother, and that if your grandmother cut you off, you'd be like, "Oh, grandma, you know, she's just so sweet." And I get butterscotch candies when I go see her, and Werther's Originals somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, online, you got to look at that mentality. It's like dealing with people who throw hate at you and stuff. You can't control what they do. You can't control being cut off. You can control the reaction, and everybody's watching for your reaction.
Yeah,
everybody's watching for that retaliation.
Dude, that is
because that's what makes books like mine, is those type of retaliations, and you don't want to go in like that. And that's where you can control it, both in person and virtually, because really they're so close to being the same thing almost.
Yeah. Well, the two things in that you're saying that I'm hearing really loud and clear. One that sprang to mind was looking at Facebook's new timeline.
Yeah.
Jumped on. I am a developer, so I have the timeline thing shut up early. I looked at it. Oh my gosh! In 2005, I was in a banter dialogue with a student. I used to be a college professor, and I was with a student. And thankfully, nothing negative or inappropriate or anything. It was fine. But I was like, what if it had been? What if it? Because all of a sudden it was on my timeline, fully recorded. They've been like pressed recorded my whole life.
Yeah. The internet never forgets. How scary is that?
Yeah. And I knew that idea theoretically, but when I saw her in fact, what the post was a student of mine wrote, "Wow, you have 98 friends on Facebook." And she wasn't being facetious. She goes, "You have 98 friends on Facebook. How'd you do that? That's incredible. 98 friends. You're almost at 100 kind of thing." And I know, but it was like, Facebook had been out for, 2 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And our school had been there for 3 months.
Yeah.
And it was such a phenomenon. But I'm like, oh my gosh, everything is being recorded. And that's number one.
Never say anything you don't want to see on a billboard with your name, your face, your best client, your mom driving by. That's just the best rule you can use.
But that has implications. Like I think of all these folks that I actually don't want to spend much time talking about it. But the negative trolley kind of people online.
Yeah.
And I know you've given commentary to this online. You said how to respond and or not respond or ignore. But there's a sense in which they are committed to a particular brand themselves when they say, I'm going to be that person in the online space. And they're not going to have a chance to really switch. I mean, that's kind of them. That's how they're known. Would you agree, or am I off on that?
You certainly set the tone, you set the personality, and certainly I've set my personality down. And good luck on me changing this. This is you Google my name and you'll spend 4 weeks going through crap, and that's just Google. Let alone what Facebook's going to pull out of there soon, which scares the heck out of. But for me, luckily, my brand is, but that's also a thing I think that people can take away is that that authenticity side of things again. If you are you and your business is built around your personality, then you don't have a lot to fear.
Right.
If you're trying to put up a front, a face, it's like this professionalism thing. I keep hearing this term, and it's always like something like Scott is not, and then I hear professionalism, and I think we mistake professionalism versus appropriateness. I think we should always be appropriate, but professionalism, I think, is a bad word for dry. I think it's a bad word for lack of passion and lack of personality. And if professionalism means no personality and no passion, then I don't want to be in the profession.
Right.
And I think that's how you can differentiate yourself from other photographers or other accountants or other something out there because that passion attracts and personality differentiates you from somebody. Otherwise, you're a commodity. And whether the passion comes out through your lens, whether it comes out through your writing, that opens it up. And people, I think, are a little scared because of that whole thing of saying, well, it's always going to be there and stuff.
Right.
I just I'm going to be me. And if that's not good enough for somebody, well, then that kind of sucks for them. And I can't do anything about it. But I'm speaking from a guy who runs the company. So I'm allowed to be me. And there's a difference. A lot of people, some people listening right now who have a boss over them who's not letting them be them.
Right.
And so this message is for the boss. Just stop it. Just stop it. Let them do it.
Well, that's really helpful. And again, this tension of both, be conscious to the fact, like treating everyone like grandma, but at the same time have a stand, like mean something to somebody.
Oh, sure.
I know when I had detractors online, at first I took it really personally, and then I actually had some people reach out to me who were pretty significant known quantities who said, well, welcome. You actually stand for, you're not Switzerland anymore. You actually stand for something. That's great.
So, the club.
Yeah, which actually was really helpful for me because I thought, okay, it probably means something. So in that, to turn the corner, because I want to be sensitive to your time, and we're already at half an hour, so I want to be, if that's okay. I'd love to hear some thoughts that you might have, Scott, around let's say you were knowing what you know now, your experience you've had, and all of a sudden you get dropped into a creative profession like photography, and it doesn't matter what genre or whatever. It's just you're a business of one. You're a service-based business. You're trading your time in for money. Your value comes from you, and you know what you know, except for you're starting from scratch. You have a working knowledge of photography.
Yeah.
Okay, and of course you're going to be working on the craft for the rest of your career, or whatever. How do you spend your first 90 days as a small business owner? If you're starting out?
Well, if I'm a photographer and I want to, especially get your job as a photographer is to get your work seen to me. Then you see it and somebody says, like, I want that captured. Especially myself, I see things like that and I want a piece of that. I want me in that. That's how I want it to work.
That's right.
And so if you're a photographer and you say, okay, here's where I'm going to go, and you got to set your guidelines. I want to work in. I want to be Kansas City within 100 miles. That's going to be what I'm going to do. You got to define where you want to be right now first. To me, if you're going to be photography, because you want to, you got to tackle local before you take over the continent. And I would start then saying, okay, so where are the people who are in the city? Who are people? If I'm comfortable being online, I'm going to go to a tweet up. I'm going to go to a meetup. I'm going to go to Twitter Grader and see who the top users in my city are. I'm going to look at their stuff, and if I think their profile picture sucks, I'm going to offer to take them one for nothing. And that's going to be my job, and get some. And if you look at my profile picture on Twitter, it was actually done by a friend of mine now, who's a friend of mine now, is Erica Meyer, who, what she did with her stuff is, I was in Minnesota for an event, and she said, if you donate $50 towards charity water, I'm doing Twitter profile pictures. It's a way for her to build her portfolio as well as to give to charity. Went to Mall of America, did a photo shoot. Now that's my photo on Twitter, and now that's the photo going in the book.
That's great.
The next book, and she's getting the credit for it. It's going out there, and it all revolves. So every time somebody sees my face on Twitter, and I've tweeted over 80,000 times, my photo is there, plus her at name is there. And if I'm followed by over 100,000 people, 80,000 tweets, plus it's going into a best-selling book already.
Yeah.
What's that worth? And it's always because I got to know her. Now, here's the difference. I got to know her first, then she offered to do it. and then it worked. So she didn't jump the queue, because if she came at me and didn't know her and said, "Hey, I want to take your picture," you'd be like, "Haha, okay."
Yeah, you're one of those
I don't
people.
know. Yeah, what's
Right.
going on? So get engaged first. And again, Kansas City or LA or Toronto or wherever it's going to be, you get to know that community. And you go to the events, and then you shoot the event. Like, that's what I would do. I'd go and talk to the organizer. Do you mind if I shoot the event just to use portfolio shots? I'll make sure everybody who's there can get a copy. It's such a great way to spread it. I know a bunch of local photographers who've done that around here, and they just become popular. And then they're front of mind for any kind of shoot that's coming up, because they did my profile photo, so I see it every day too.
Right.
And that's a big thing. And they do events. Like, I have one in my office up on the wall. It's hard to see way up and see the back corner there, that reddish orange picture.
Yeah.
That's me. That's me dancing at it's called Blistum. That was in Nashville. And a photographer took the shot there, and she took it and she put it out there, and that picture's been viewed by tens of thousands of people with her credit on there.
That's great.
Because of her shooting the event, and because it gives her exposure. And I think if you're a photographer and your best thing is for your work, what's up, dude? Your best thing for your work, the best thing for your work is to get people to see. It's like a restaurant. Your biggest challenge is to get people in the door, right? Photographer, your biggest challenge is getting your work seen, so you can show people what you can do, and get it in the hands of people who already have the platforms. Get it in the hands of people who've already built the leverage, because 6 months is not enough time to build a huge following on Twitter, a huge following on Facebook, or a huge blog readership. But it is enough to start cementing relationships with people and getting your work out there. And I think that's a good start to do it.
That's fantastic. You know, what you're saying is so affirming on a lot of levels. My story was I shot weddings for about a decade, and then made the shift to portraits because it was more family friendly. I got 4 kids, and in the move, when I made the jump, I moved into this neighborhood of 1,000 homes, really affluent homes. And in my head, I'm like, this is my target. This is my circle. Draw a circle around 1,000 homes. All my kids go to the same school, right in the middle of 1,000 homes. And this neighborhood's probably too expensive for me to live in, but it was a decision of commitment relative to what I wanted to accomplish. And it took us about 3 years to really, because I had to be their neighbor. Because I didn't want to be that guy at pool deck who every time I walked up, it was like, there's Sanders, selling me crap.
Oh, here he is. To turn your head.
Yeah. So it's holiday pictures, great.
We're vampires. We don't come out photos. We can't do it. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Totally. But honestly, what you're saying is what I did. Like for 3 years, kind of building relationships, and then this past spring, I did things like a moms with camera event in my neighborhood, and people would come to my into this room, and I had like 28 women. And I did all this fun, like they even paid me. They paid me like $75 for the night or whatever, really low bar. But they had a felt need for it. They came in, and the whole presentation for 4 weeks was I was showing them my work as I was describing how to take pictures. And then this fall has been an epic fall. Like I can't believe the return, and it's not been because I'm selling anybody anything.
Right.
It's been because, like you say, a couple key people in this particular geographical local space started talking, and things really opened up. But it's ironic because I did it backwards, because I did, because of weddings, I did things more on a national and international level first, and it was really challenging to go, no, I need to chunk this way down to my neighborhood.
The other way around,
Yeah, and it was really resourceful. So I think what you're saying could be really helpful for people who are listening in, and super, super great.
I think you got a better chance now than you have any time in the history of time to be able to get your work out there. Where between Flickr, Facebook, and just any way that even photos get shared, it's so much easier now to get the word out about stuff. Now, mind you, there's so much more content out there as well.
Sure.
But for your clients, for your guests, for your customers to share that if they're happy with it. The world's your oyster. Also, if they're not happy with it,
they're gonna know better. Your world's your pain.
Exactly. The world's your very terrible tasting oyster.
Your food's sick, throwing up in the bathroom.
Watch that. Botulism is a bitch.
Hey, just last thing. Whenever you mentioned Erica, and it's Erica, right?
Yes.
Your photographer friend. What's her Twitter handle at Erica?
I think she switched it around. I will have to, maybe wherever we post this, I'll put a link to it. I'll send it to you later on. I can't remember if she switched her Twitter name. It used to be Erica Mayer, but I think she switched it. So I'll get it to you.
Well,
you can see it. Actually, click on my Twitter photo. And her name will be there too.
That'd be fun. So if you're watching this at home, let's really hook up our friend, the photographer who took Scott's picture, and at the very least follow. But check out her work. Scott, thank you so much for being on the show. I would like to bug you and have you on again someday, but I don't want to. When the new book comes out, maybe or something. Just know that the invite's coming. Also, I just want to say I've never met her in person, but I think I have a bit of a crush on her. But Amber Mack up at the Globe and Mail, she's just the greatest. I think she's awesome. I have her book. And if you get a chance, just tell her she's got one more fan down in California.
I will. Amber is wonderful. She knows 10 times more than me, and she's 10 times nicer. So, she's got better hair. So she's fantastic. I will tell her to say hi. So we cross paths in airports all the time. That's
great. Well, and next time you're in California, the beer's on me. And again, thanks for being on the show.
All right, thanks. Take care, everybody.
Okay. Bye, Scott.
See you, man.